I don't know that I have any profound questions, but I want to thank you for holding this hearing. We're dealing, as I think our very able panelists have told us, with something that is almost unprecedented. It's very frightening, and we're all going to have to scramble to figure out how we come up with some sensible solutions. Just a few points that I want to throw out. Maybe the panelists can comment on it later. We have talked about the immediate impact of the financial downturn in terms of increased unemployment and foreclosures and so forth. But one point, Mr. Chairman, I want to reiterate. One of my real frustrations with the Bush administration, well before the immediate financial crisis, is their refusal to address the reality that even before the crisis, the middle class in this country was in serious decline. So this didn't happen a few months ago. We have had, and the reality is, and we have to put this out on the table, is that in the United States, among all of the other industrialized nations, we have the dubious distinction of having the highest rate of childhood poverty. Forget the immediate financial crisis. 18% of our kids are living in poverty. We have the highest overall poverty rate. We have the highest infant mortality rate. We have the highest incarceration rate. We spend $50,000 a year to keep people in jail, and if anyone thinks that's not related to having a very high poverty rate, I would seriously question your judgment. We have also, Mr. Chairman, and I think we have to address this issue as well. How does the grossly unequal distribution of income and wealth play into this financial crisis? According to at least some analysts, the top 0.1% earn more income than the bottom 50%. And we are moving in the direction of Brazil, of Russia, of very unindustrialized country in terms of that discrepancy. Do we address that issue? How is it related to the crisis that we face? And of course, we are the only major country on earth without a national health care program. So I want to maybe throw into the hopper here for further discussion some of these longer-term problems that our economy is facing, how that ties into the financial crisis, how do we address that? Mr. Chairman, I agree with much of what you laid out in terms of what a package would include, a stimulus package. But I agree with, I think it was Dr. Zandi talking also about the need to move us to sustainable energy. I think there is enormous job creation in energy efficiency. I was just in the United Kingdom last week. They are talking about creating a whole lot of jobs in energy efficiency, and I think we can do that. Maybe the panelists can discuss the impact on our economy of importing $700 billion a year of foreign oil, and why not investing in sustainable energy, wind, solar, geothermal, biomass. The other things that I think we may want to also throw on this table for discussion is I think the loss of faith. We talk about loss of confidence from an economic perspective. I think there's a deeper loss of faith in corporate America in general. I can tell you that in my state, people are furious. People are struggling to keep their heads above water, and the idea of placing at risk $700 billion of taxpayer money to bail out people on Wall Street who in the past have made just huge amounts of money investing in very reckless, exotic financial packages, that brings about the issue of re-regulation. It brings about the issue of greed in our society. Are we in a healthy state when so much money is being played about in the financial sector while our manufacturing sector is in rapid decline? Doesn't it make a lot more sense to maybe put money into producing products that the American people consume, so in fact we don't have to import everything from China, rather than have guys make huge sums of money playing on Wall Street? Other point that I want to make, we've heard some statistics about unemployment. There is a question about the validity of unemployment. For example, I believe we have about 10 million people who are unemployed today, roughly speaking. We have another 7 million people who are underemployed, i.e., who want to work full-time, who are working part-time. Is that something that we should throw into the hopper? Is, in fact, the economic situation a lot worse? Do we have PhDs out there who are driving taxi cabs or working as waiters or waitresses? Is that part of the, is the problem even worse than we are suspecting it is? So, Mr. Chairman, those are a few of the issues that I think this has been an excellent presentation. You've got different philosophical points of view, and I think they all have something to say. So I just wanted to throw out some of those ideas to further the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'd give, if the panel wants to react to any of that, we'd give them the opportunity. Mr. Zandi?
Sure. I do agree that the unemployment rate, where you ended your remarks, is not an adequate measure of the stress in the labor market and the job market. It's 6.5%. But if you do add in discouraged workers, so-called discouraged workers who aren't even looking for work and aren't counted as unemployed, and you consider those that are working part-time for economic reasons, certainly underemployed, and also some of the self-employed. People lose payroll jobs and they try to make it by becoming self-employed. Then we're already into the double digits, 11, 12% already there.
Do you think, by the way, and I know that's out of the jurisdiction of this committee, maybe it's in the Health Education Committee, that we might want to take a look at reconfiguring how we determine real unemployment in America?
I think the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually has different measures of stress in the labor market. We economists focus on the unemployment rate, the 6.5%, but in the monthly report that the BLS puts out, they have different measures of underemployment, and you can measure it and you can see it.
But the point you're making now is the economic situation is really perhaps a lot more severe than that 6.5%.
Yeah, I think the 6.5% understates the stress and the change in the level of stress that's occurring. And again, just to reinforce a point, this is one of the unique features of what we're in is how broad-based the problem is. It's across all industries. It's across all occupations. It's across all regions of the country. In other downturns and recessions, you had industries that were doing reasonably well. You had occupations that were okay. You had regions that were fine, so that people had some options. You know, they could move from Michigan to Florida. They could move from California to Arizona. They could try to go get retrained for another job in the tech sector in the healthcare industry. But those options are much more limited today, and I think that's weighing very heavily on the collective psyche. So the problems are much broader based.
Say a word about income and wealth inequality. Can you have a sustainable, strong economy when so few have so much and so many have so little?
My view is that income inequality is a problem, and income and wealth inequality is a problem, and it's a problem in the sense that there is a skewing of the distribution of income and wealth, and the skewing has gotten worse over time, and that the forces at work creating this are firmly in place. So it suggests that it's not going to get any better, it's going to get worse going forward. And I don't think it's a major contributing factor to the mess we're in right now, but I do think it is going to be a very serious problem that we're going to have to tackle in the future. And that, you know, we have very significant long-term fiscal problems that we're going to have to address, and I don't think we can address those problems without putting it through the prism of what it means for the distribution of income and wealth.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, I'd like to take up this, I agree with what Mr. Zandi's saying, the points he made, but I'd like to take up the inequality point a little bit more. I actually think it does matter today, and I think this feeds into what I think we can see developing as a bailout fatigue in the U.S. People are very annoyed, as you said, with the leadership that got them into this, and they're not really happy with some of the unions who are involved in the auto industry as well. There's some issues there about differences in pay. Mostly, I think, though, there's a lot of pent-up frustration. This is a big problem because, unfortunately, in this very difficult situation where the credit system is collapsing, we have to consider bailouts or rescues for all kinds of different things. We're not going to hopefully do all of them, but we're going to do things that we wouldn't ordinarily do and not be comfortable with, and that's going to make people very angry because of the inequality. I think the way to address that going forward is by working on education. I think a lot of the inequality comes from the fact that the income difference between people with high school education and college education is getting wider and wider, probably because of technology. Should
we follow the route of many of the European countries and make college free or virtually free? Does that make sense to you for those who are qualified to get in?
I think what you want to do is find ways to make sure that people who leave high school have better, stronger technical skills, which is also what they do in Europe, without necessarily requiring or pushing them to go into a college education program. The other point I'd like to
I think my time has long expired. So
on energy efficiency, I think investing in technology development would address exactly your concerns there. I think that makes sense now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.